Thank you everybody that's watching this on YouTube. Thank you everybody that's watching this on Steemit. The people that watched this Facebook Live video that I took this production from. Thanks so much for supporting what I'm doing. I love my people, but I love Steemit just a little bit more than I love YouTube. I'm just going to put that out there. So, everything I talk about in this breakdown of my understanding of the law enforcement's Officers' Bill of Rights, brought to you by that lovely organization, the Fraternal Order of Police, will be linked below. So there'll be links pertaining to everything I talk about below, and this is basically a travesty of law that was crafted by the largest police union in the country, the Fraternal Order of Police, and it's called the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. I was shocked when I first found out about this. I think everybody should be held to the same legal standard. I don't think police deserve their super ultra extra special legal protections. Look forward to another video I'm going to produce about qualified immunity later. Qualified immunity, to give a little preview as to what's coming down the pike for my video after this one. Qualified immunity is basically a legal standard that sets the bar so high for the threshold of what defines a crime being committed for a law enforcement officer to be so much higher than what the standard is for everyone else. So it's basically a giant legal barrier. It's like legal armor protecting law enforcement officers from both civil lawsuits, suing them for money if in a wrongful death suit, or criminal prosecution. Without further ado, let's get into dissecting this excrement-filled, maggot-impregnated pile of bloody horse feces known as the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. One, there's the largest police union in the country called the Fraternal Order of Police, and it's their job simply to protect their workers, and they do a very good job about it. They're really great at protecting their workers by doing all sorts of lovely things over the last 4 decades, these guys have manipulated law to the point to where the police actually have their own separate Bill of Rights that runs in parallel to and in contradiction to the Bill of Rights that normal citizens like yourself and I enjoy. And it's called the Fraternal Order of Police Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. I'll get into talking about this for a second, but I'm going to add a link beneath this live broadcast and a comment so the one person there that started watching can see what I'm talking about or read along with me. So, there's a link to basically what the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights is, and this thing is just repugnant. If you get into it, okay, so I'm on The Balance, that's the website, Criminology Careers. So this is a website for people that are learning to be cops. So as a description underneath, it's right there, I'm pointing at it. Hit that link, open this in a new window, and let's have a look at this. This is a website, it basically goes through and gives you a little bit of insight. It gives you some insight into the Supreme Court decisions that created the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, like the U.S. Supreme Court, Garrity versus New Jersey and Gander versus Broadwick. That's actually what allowed them to advocate the creation of the Policeman's Bill of Rights, and it gets into it very specifically. But if you want to go to the wiki page, which I will go to now, we can look at the actual specifics of the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, and I will go through why it's repugnant and why it gives them more legal protections in court than other folks. So, now I'm at Wikipedia, and we can have a look at this. Alright. Wikipedia says the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, LEOBR, is intended to protect American law enforcement personnel from investigation and prosecution persecution arise from conduct during official performance of their duties and provides them with privileges based on due process. First set forth in 1974 following Supreme Court rulings in the case of Gary v. New Jersey. I just talked about that. But if you go down the details when you're scrolling, oh yeah, I need to post this wiki link so you guys can follow along with me. So there is a wiki link to the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights put forth by the Fraternal Order of Police. And these are fun. Okay. Details. The Law Enforcement Bill of Rights by the Grand Lodge of the Fraternal Order of Police. Law enforcement officers, except when on duty or acting in an official capacity, have the right to engage in political activity or run for elected office. I don't have an issue with that. That's not part of the LEO Bill of Rights that I find repugnant. It gets a little... we get into it when we go a little further down. Law enforcement officers shall, if disciplinary action is expected, be notified of the investigation and the nature of the allegations or alleged violation, and be notified of the outcome of the investigation and the recommendations made to superiors by the investigation. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Here is an inequality from the get-go. The second bullet point in the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights. They are immediately notified. Okay, law enforcement officers shall, if disciplinary action is expected, be notified of the investigation. So, hey Joshua Hickman. So, in the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, they have to be notified when an investigation starts against them, just for administrative admonishment or the possibility that they might be punished at work. That's complete and utter BS. If a regular citizen in the state of Oregon is being investigated by the police, law enforcement officers can stack charges against you and not tell you that you're being investigated. They don't. So that's an insane inequality right there. So police in Oregon can investigate you and find probable cause for your arrest for 5, 6, 7, 8 charges, as many charges as they like, and then bring you all to court with this big long list of charges. Yeah, I am preaching, brother. Thanks, Joshua, but I don't think I need that. You're a very kind man, but you know, I don't know what I'd do with that. But here's the thing. All right. So when citizens are investigated, the police can do it in secret. When cops are investigated, they have to notify the officer. That is some complete and utter bullshit. Okay. Here's a fun one. Let's compare this to the way citizens are questioned. Questioning of a law enforcement officer should be conducted for a reasonable length of time and preferably while the officer is on duty unless exigent circumstances apply. Exigent circumstances mean unless there's an imminent possibility that the cop is going to create or commit a crime at that moment, or if their questioning of him occurs at a time that might be conducive to a crime occurring. But check this out. When the officer is on duty or during a reasonable hour. Now, reasonable hour is defined if you look into the specifics of the various versions of the Fraternal Order of Police's Bill of Rights as normal business hours. All right. So this is crazy because police, when they question or investigate a citizen, they will grab you at any time of the day when you're psychologically unbalanced, when you're coming out of the hospital while you're holding your grandmother dying. They can wait until you're drunk. You know, you could be at a bar and they're going to pick you up and question you for a crime. You know, so what this does is always allow the officers a clarity of thinking, a peacefulness of a mindset before they're ever questioned, because they have to be questioned during reasonable hours, and they have to be questioned preferably when they're on duty. So this is giving them a succinct advantage over everyone else for the simple fact that they question regular citizens anytime, and they can question you You know, they can knock on your door and wake you up at 4 a.m., question you at 6 a.m. before you've had your coffee, and that unsettles a person. It makes it harder for them to have the proper cognitive functions to even be questioned by cops. So let's look down. There's another bullet point for questioning under the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. Question, and this one's fun. All right, think about this in the context of the difference between their question and the difference between regular citizens are questions. Question of law enforcement officers should take place at the office of those conducting the investigation or at a place where the officer reports to work, unless the officer consents to another location. That one's fine. It's another one that has to do with questioning. Okay, that I'm thinking of. Okay, number 3, here it is. Law enforcement officers will be questioned by a single investigator, and he or she shall be informed of the name, rank, and command of the officer conducting the investigation. All right, so here's the thing, right? You've heard the expression good cop, bad cop. You know, we've seen this scenario play out on TV, you know, thousands of times, where one cop acts all mean and intimidating when they're questioning a suspect, and the other cop acts nice. So the mean cop scares the hell out of the suspect, and then the nice cop comes along and goes, just cooperate with me, buddy. See, in the court of law, that's called coercion. Okay? When you manipulate somebody with fear and then to get them to capitulate to your wishes or desires. But see, law enforcement officers are only allowed to be questioned by one person. So they can't do that good cop, bad cop stuff and coerce and intimidate confessions or statements out of people. That is just crazy. All right. Law enforcement officers under investigation are entitled to have counsel or any other individual of their choice at the interrogation. So they get to have a lawyer, and which is fine. Normal citizens get to have a lawyer when you're being questioned by the police. You know, you can say, hypothetically, you could say, because I can't give legal advice, I invoke my right to remain silent. I'd like to speak with a lawyer before I'm going to be questioned by you, officer. That's just fine. I don't have an issue with that part of the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. The part I do have an issue with is simply this. Law enforcement officers under investigation are entitled to have counsel present. We've already discussed that's fine, but here comes the big or, the fly in the ointment. Or any other individual of their choice present at the interrogation. So they can have a lawyer and any person of their choosing. Well, see, that's coercive and manipulative in nature, for the simple fact that depending on who's in the room, what person is in the room will directly affect the behavior of the investigator. And imagine this. If a cop wants to stall for more time before they get investigated, they'll say, oh, I want my friend from, the United Arab Emirates or my friend from Dubai to fly down next week so I could have him sit here. You know, that way I get myself about a week of time to prepare and get all my ducks in a row and get all my lies and deception all lined up before I have to be questioned. It's just ridiculous. This is a massive disparity between the way that they're questioned and the way that we are questioned. So we're going to continue now. Here's one for you. This is in the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, and this is completely different than the way that a regular citizen is questioned. Law enforcement officers under investigation cannot be threatened, harassed, or promised rewards to induce the answer of any question. I want you to think about that. Law enforcement officers cannot be threatened, harassed, or promised rewards to induce any answer to a question. What you call that on the street or in a dictionary is lying. Okay, police can sit there and say, you know what, I understand that you may have stole something from somebody, and you may have stole something from this store, but you know, how about if you write me a letter of apology to the person that you stole the bicycle from or the box of cookies from, I'll make sure that you don't get prosecuted, and you know the person will have a really nice letter to say that to really fill your apology, and all will be well, you know, and you won't go to jail and you won't get prosecuted. Just write me that nice letter of apology to the person you stole from. The person will write the letter, and then the cop will throw their ignorant ass in jail, and the letter will be used as evidence against them in court that they indeed did steal the item. And the reason why I'm using this example is because it was actually done before. There's a really awesome video on YouTube called Never Talk to the Police. And it's a video that gives equal time. Half of the video is done by a trial defense attorney, and the other half is by a former detective. And the former detective explained that very same scenario. He would pick up people that were accused of a crime and ask them, like a theft crime, and ask them to write a letter of an apology, and he promises that they won't be arrested. When they write the letter of apology and sign it and expected the cop to cut him loose, he actually threw him in jail and used that very same letter to convict him in court. So that is just insane. Police are completely allowed to lie, coerce, or threaten, or promise you rewards to induce the answer of a question, and it's been done hundreds of thousands of times. Here's one. Law enforcement officers cannot be subject to retaliation for the exercise of these or any other right under federal or state law. Okay, so they can't be admonished for the manner in which this is unequal to other people. Basically, if their special rights, piss off the public have no remedy, because the public can't petition city government to say, hey, that officer got away with murder because he stalled the investigation by saying he wants some guy halfway across the world to be present at his questioning. He purposely stalled the investigation and impeded the investigator's ability to gather information critical to the conviction of this cop for a crime. A citizen cannot go into court and petition the city government to make the officer civilly liable. And I know what you're thinking. Well, my city doesn't have a fraternal order of police's Bill of Rights. You're correct on that. There's many cities that don't use the FOP's Bill of Rights. They do, however, have their own law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights in many places, and they use this one as the model to go by. Many places just go ahead and cookie cutter the Fraternal Order of Police Union's law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights. So there we have it. Therein lies one of the biggest hindrances to police ever being held accountable for their rights. That special version of the Bill of Rights that they get, called the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. Ruby, Robin, Blue, yes. Preach on, Brother Keith. Well, you know what? I am done with this little discussion. I hope it was educational for those of you that are watching this on Steemit. I'm just going to go ahead and upload this to Steemit because, well, I thought it was an interesting little rant. Thanks for watching and whatnot. Oh yeah, can a brother get an upvote or a re-steam for police accountability? Oh yeah.